you tackle that? Understanding, for example, say black films that are shown in Japan. What are some of the tricks or trade that you may use or that helps you get those cultural nuances across the audience?
Generally, the actual dubbing or the recording process, it's generally regional. So if it's Italian, they do it in Italy. If it's Japanese, they do it in Japan, et cetera, et cetera. And they sort of add their own cultural nuances to them. And a lot of the jokes cannot and probably will not translate literally. So they sort of just come up with something completely different that has no relation to actually what they're saying, but it's going to be funny for that particular region. So that aspect I don't really deal with so much, but it's more of the manipulation, the editing of the audio, and making sure that it's in sync with the lip movements and doesn't look like an old Hong Kong kung fu movie. So I do certain techniques to get it to look a little bit better with the lip sync, because obviously the consonant vowel clusters and whatnot, they're not gonna match the lips exactly. So, but we try to get it really close. And I had the pleasure of actually seeing one of the projects I worked on in Japan at a theater. They had a special screening that was the equivalent of $10. It was it's every second Monday of the month or something. It's some odd promotional thing, and I went to see it. And it was nice to see it in a Japanese environment and to see people's reactions and they laugh, but to hear it and realize, like, hey, that's that turned out a little bit better than I originally thought it, and it looks good on the screen. So it's kind of refreshing. But I'm just sort of that man in the shadows, the unsung hero, if you will.
Right.
But it's it gives me good experience. It puts something under my belt and that I can carry with me. Yeah.
Yeah, the behind the scenes is what's very important, and no matter what type of business. Now, while you're over there, may I ask, how were you perceived on a business level as an African American in Japan?
I think I sort of I get teased a lot because I infiltrate. I'm lighter skinned African American, and historically we've. I won't get too deep into it, but we have certain liberties that darker African Americans do not. Please don't take me wrong, but that it's factual. So I think I tend to slide in because people aren't really sure of what my ethnic background is unless I tell them or act it, if you will.
According to the stereotypes or perceptions they may have.
Sure. And that's generally in a joking type of scenario. But if I'm with a colleague or in a business environment, then it's certain vernacular I'll use will be obviously geared towards business.
Right.
But if I'm quote unquote hanging with the homies or putting on a show, then that's when I kick the lingo, so to speak. Right. As corny as that might sound, but it's sort of how you play it out.
Right.
But I would say overall, I didn't really feel my ethnic background was an issue. I think just the mere shock of an American. This particular place that I had contact with was a smaller venue, and I was given a forewarning that I would be the first American to even enter the doors as far as having contact as interviews and whatnot. So I was sort of pre-warned, like they might be somewhat standoffish or just really shocked. So,
right.
But they seemed to be impressed enough with my background that they sort of entertain the ideal of that my Japanese is not quite fluent. I speak fairly well as far as navigating where to, from, how much, but when it comes to heavy business language, I'm not quite up to par. But the interview process was part English, part Japanese, and if things got a little too heavy, then they actually brought in a bilingual translator to fill in the gaps.
And that bilingual interpreter, how did that person fare as far as getting points across? I'd
say on my end, I got really good information as far as the point. I got the point across. It seemed to be really sincere, and quite helpful, because there was just at times I would blank out. I would either forget what to say or say it improperly, or have to ask them to rephrase it because of a regional phrase that would be used, or I would only know it in one regard.
Right.
So I found the translator to be extremely helpful, but not the norm. I want to add, because if you're going to Japan to work, generally, unless it's maybe an English teaching job or something related to entertainment, for the most part, you probably will not have that luxury. So you really have to go forearmed and forewarned and ready to go, because you will have to use Japanese. A lot of people there, I feel, speak English. They're either just uncomfortable or not confident enough to use it. But if you're if you're in a say a more traditional company, financial, management, sales, don't count on them having a translator there for you.
I remember when I got out the Marine Corps, and this is back in 1992, I flew over for a second and third round of interviews. I went through Disco International. I went to San Francisco and did that whole process and interview with American Express Japan and so on. Well, some various companies. And I remember one interview I totally screwed up, and it was I didn't pass the kanji test. I remember that.